Athens, cradle of Western civilization. Athens is celebrated not only as the birthplace of democracy, but also as the home of some of the greatest minds in science, philosophy, and the arts. Its contributions to the world have helped shape modern civilization. Yet, its history is a story of dramatic transitions, from obscurity to prominence, and through cycles of decline, foreign rule, and rebirth. So, how did this once modest settlement rise to influence the world so profoundly? This is the story of Athens. Human habitation in Athens dates back to the Neolithic period around 700 BC. As agriculture took hold over 5,000 years ago, the first permanent settlements began to form. One of the earliest of these was established atop a large, flat rock, the Acropolis, which became the religious and political heart of the city. By 1412 BC, Athens had been absorbed into the Mycenaean civilization, one of the first large-scale societies in mainland Greece. Although not as dominant as Mycenae or Polis, Athens became a center of trade and shared many cultural traits that would later define classical Greek civilization. The earliest known reference to the city, Athene, dates to the 13th century BC. According to myth, the city was named after the goddess Athena, who won its patronage by gifting an olive tree. The Mycenaean era collapsed around 1100 BC, plunging Athens and much of the Mediterranean into the Greek Dark Ages. During this time, political structures crumbled, cities were abandoned, and writing was lost. Remarkably, Athens survived without complete destruction and retained a small population. The oral tradition preserved myths and stories like Homer's Iliad and Odyssey during this period. This political fragmentation eventually gave rise to kin-based communities that laid the groundwork for the city-state or polis. These would become the fundamental political units of ancient Greece. Athens' survival through the Dark Ages set it apart, enabling it to rebound strongly during the Archaic period beginning around 800 BC. With renewed contact with the Near East and Egypt, Athens adopted the Phoenician alphabet, creating the basis of Greek literacy. This revival allowed laws, religious texts, and poetry to be written down, preserving them for future generations. During the Archaic period, political power shifted from monarchy to an oligarchy dominated by aristocrats. Kings were replaced by magistrates known as archons, who served the interests of the elite. Athens expanded its control across Attica, becoming the largest and richest state on the Greek mainland. However, this growth also widened the gap between classes, sparking social unrest. In 621 BC, Draco introduced Athens' first written legal code, which was famously severe, giving us the term draconian. These laws favored the aristocracy and did little to address underlying inequalities. In response, Solon implemented reforms in 594 BC. He abolished debt slavery, restructured the class system by wealth, and allowed even the poorest citizens to participate in the public assembly, ecclesia. Though not a complete democracy, Solon's efforts laid its foundation. Despite these reforms, Athens experienced further turmoil. In 561 BC, Pisistratus seized power, establishing a tyranny. Though authoritarian, he maintained many of Solon's reforms and supported economic growth. After his death in 527 BC, his sons failed to maintain support, and the last of them, Hippias, was overthrown in 510 BC after a period of brutal repression. This opened the door for Cleisthenes to enact one of the most pivotal changes in history, the establishment of democracy in 508 BC. His reforms broke the power of aristocratic families and gave ordinary citizens a voice in government, changing not just Athens, but the course of human history. Athens, the democratic experiment and legacy. At the dawn of the 5th century BC, Athens emerged as a cultural, political, and military powerhouse. Its groundbreaking democratic system set it apart from other city-states in the Mediterranean, despite a shared Greek identity rooted in language, values, and culture. This unity inspired Athens to support the Ionian Greeks in Asia Minor in 499 BC during their rebellion against Persian rule. The move provoked a full-scale Persian invasion of mainland Greece. In 490 BC, Athens faced its first major test at the Battle of Marathon, where its hoplite soldiers triumphed over Emperor Darius I's Persian army. The legend of a messenger running 26 miles to Athens to announce the victory gave birth to the modern marathon. But the Persian threat loomed large. In 480 BC, Darius's son, Xerxes, launched a massive invasion. After initial defeats at Thermopylae and Artemisium, Athens was captured and razed. However, the Athenian navy remained defiant and crushed the Persian fleet at the Battle of Salamis. This pivotal victory turned the tide, and by 479 BC, the Persian forces were expelled from Greece. In the aftermath, Athens became the dominant force in the Delian League, originally formed to deter future Persian aggression. Gradually, Athens transformed the League into an empire, demanding tributes and extending its influence across the eastern Mediterranean. Under Pericles, from 461 to 429 BC, Athens entered a golden age of art, philosophy, and architecture. The Parthenon was completed in 438 BC, while playwrights like Sophocles, Euripides, and Aeschylus penned enduring dramas. This was also the time when public intellectual life flourished. Socrates challenged Athenian thought with his dialectical method, inspiring his student Plato to found the Academy in 387 BC, the first institution of higher education in the Western world. But prosperity bred rivalry. Athens's expanding empire clashed with Sparta and its Peloponnesian League. The resulting Peloponnesian War, beginning in 431 BC, lasted nearly 30 years. Athens initially leveraged its naval superiority, but internal strife and military defeats weakened it. In 405 BC, the Spartans crushed the Athenian fleet at the Battle of Aegospotami, leading to Athens's surrender and the end of its dominance. Under Roman rule, Athens remained a cultural beacon. Roman elites admired its intellectual legacy, sending their children to study rhetoric and philosophy in the city schools. Emperors like Hadrian funded grand projects, including libraries, aqueducts, and the completion of the temple of Olympian Zeus. As Christianity spread, Athens began to change. Pagan temples were converted to churches, and the city's role diminished further as Constantinople rose as the Byzantine capital in 330 AD. During the Byzantine period, Athens became a provincial town. Its famed philosophical schools closed, and religious identity shifted toward Orthodox Christianity. The 13th century brought fresh turmoil. In 1204, the Fourth Crusade captured Constantinople, fragmenting the Byzantine Empire. Athens became the capital of the Latin Duchy of Athens under Frankish rule. Successive powers, including Catalans, Venetians, and finally the Ottomans, controlled the city. The Ottomans captured Athens in 1458. They converted churches into mosques and built fortifications, including repurposing the Parthenon as a gunpowder store. Tragically, a Venetian bombardment in 1687 ignited the stored gunpowder, devastating the Parthenon. Despite economic recovery in the 18th century, Athens remained a provincial town. The city's ruins attracted European interest, and in the early 1800s, Lord Elgin controversially removed sculptures from the Parthenon, which now reside in the British Museum. In 1821, Greece launched a war of independence against the Ottomans. After years of conflict and European intervention, Athens was liberated in 1833. Prince Otto of Bavaria arrived as king, and Athens was declared the capital of the modern Greek state, despite being a small town with 10,000 inhabitants. Through the 19th century, Athens transformed into a modern capital. New buildings, institutions, and infrastructure emerged, including the National Archaeological Museum and the Panathenaic Stadium, which hosted the first modern Olympics in 1896. The 20th century brought more trials. Axis forces occupied Athens during World War II, bringing starvation and repression. Liberation in 1944 was followed by civil war between communists and nationalists. Peace and economic recovery returned by the 1950s, and despite the military junta in the 1960s-70s, Athens continued its revival. A major milestone came in 2004, when Athens hosted the Olympic Games once more. Despite challenges like economic crises, Athens endures as a city of resilience, continuously renewing itself while preserving the legacy of its glorious past.